Hey, what is up guys? Evan Aldo here. So wanted to do a video. I am in Playa del Carmen, Mexico right now. And as some of you guys know, I've been, well, let's talk about this video. I want to talk a lot about, what it's like kind of being a digital nomad. Is it the right thing for you? That type of stuff, how I've been liking it. Is it, all fad? Is it worth it? And all that type of stuff. And I mean, I do like it a lot. If you guys have been watching me, you guys know I've been to a lot of places, throughout the past few years. And I mean, it's kind of typical of what a lot of people do. Let's be real, content creators, YouTubers, a lot of them, they move to Bali, they visit Bali, places like that are popular. When you have the money, generally, not everybody, but generally, you're going to travel around more and see more of the world. And I think it's more important to do that when you're younger rather than you're older, because digital nomad lifestyle, I mean, you can do it in your 20s and maybe up to your 30s, 40s, it could get a little bit tougher. It depends, how often you're moving around and all that type of stuff. But I mean, if you're moving around, on a minimum, you should probably stay in every place to kind of do this lifestyle and still be productive. I would say would be 1 month. You kind of want to be in one place, each place at least 1 month to really, because it takes a few days to really get situated usually. Obviously depends what the hell you're working on and all that type of stuff. But no, I mean, if you got the discipline, I think it's really good. And I think that kind of the end goal with this, there's a lot of the world to see, a lot of great places to go. I mean, if you're looking for cheaper places, where you could live pretty well on just, let's say $5 grand a month, let's say, 50 grand. Usually, I mean, it depends. I don't know if I want to get into the most details on like how much you need. Obviously, you could get by on less than that, but for more of a comfortable, lifestyle, I would say you want to at least be at that kind of 5K a month, because after taxes, that's what, 4K. I mean, we could, with the U.S., I mean, you may not have to pay taxes depending on your situation. With the U.S. passport, you're not really. The only thing you can do, with the U.S. passport, if you stay 330 days consecutively outside the U.S. each year, which is a lot, you can write off 100K in taxes. So essentially, if you're making, anything, you pay no taxes if you make 100K or less. So that's that possibility, and that could be, that definitely could be advantageous. But let's say you're paying tax, if you make 5K a month, that's 4K a month. I would say 4K a month. If you're moving around, if you're going to be, I would say if you're making less than that and you still want to live somewhere abroad, just move to the cheap place, wherever, the place you want to live, whether it be in, Latin America, and the big places that people are going to do it is going to be Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Europe. Those are the places where, you can get by with a lot less. And, I am fortunate to be in the position, obviously, where, I could do this pretty much anywhere in the world. I could go anywhere in the world that I want. But at the other time, I want more money to put into crypto. I want more money to, put into other things and other investments in a lot of ways. I may do, there's more places I want to see. So kind of the end goal is, nobody wants to be, moving around, living in Airbnbs, their entire life. I think as you kind of get older, it could be, you don't want that. I don't think I would want that. It's fun, but you want some, stability at some point. However, if you look at what kind of Andrew Henderson has done, that's Nomad Capitalist, that YouTube channel, if you guys are not familiar, he has kind of I think he came up with this trifecta method, he calls it. Essentially, he's got 3 places. I think he's got a place in Serbia, that's in Eastern Europe. He's got a place in, Colombia, and then a third place in Malaysia. So, 3 places. Now, people would think, how much, it's not as expensive as you would think. It's not as expensive as you would think. If you got, let's say, if you have 500K, I think the minimum for like a lot of these investment, I know for Malaysia, and which is a really good place, by the way. I really like Malaysia. I like Bangkok a lot too. It depends, Kuala Lumpur, it depends what you're looking for, or what your interests are. There's more to do in Thailand, obviously, but Malaysia, very inexpensive, really modern, especially Kuala Lumpur, really cool place. I think the minimum to get like residency or whatever, if you invest 200K. So if you got a place for 200K there, and then a place for, let's say, 200K in, I don't know, Latin America, you could probably, Playa del Carmen, you could probably get a decent condo around here easily, 150, 200K. I mean, if you're really close to the water, somewhere real nice, maybe 300, 400K, something like that. But if you did 200K, and then you could probably find, I mean, if you want, I'm not the biggest Eastern Europe guy, although I've only ever been to Prague. I may hit Eastern Europe, but I like more of the tropical climates, more of the warmer climates. That's the other thing too why I like Latin America, because I know the language pretty well. Spanish, I know that pretty well. Southeast Asia I like because tropical climate, that aspect. There's a lot of places I still haven't even been to, and I've been traveling for, I've spent months and months, kind of traveling, exploring places, but not, staying in each place for pretty much at least a month, in this kind of lifestyle to, stay, productive, sufficient, all that stuff things. But, so that's kind of what I look at there. I mean, I've never been to Japan, heard good things about it. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. That could be a cool spot. It depends. You want to kind of adapt to the culture a little bit. Like, I know in Japan, most people don't speak English, I've heard, and, it's harder to adapt to that culture. But if you have a niche, if you have an interest, I guess, let's say, in learning Japanese and all that, then you may do well there. You know what I mean? Then you may really stand out. If you look like, if you're somebody who looks like a Westerner, you know what I mean? You could speak even just probably basic Japanese, even probably a few damn words, because no one learns anything usually. Then you may stand out. You know what I mean? Taiwan, I thought was really cool too. Taiwan and Asia. So, I think ultimately, the goal would be if you could have, and that's what, you look at a lot of, most of the, wealthy people in the U.S. There's different ways to look at it. Different people have different interests, but a lot of the wealthier boomers, baby boomers, they usually got a place. Let's say they're from New York or wherever, California. They may have a place where they're from, California, and then they may have a home in Florida for tax purposes. They stay there 6 months and 1 day of the year or whatever, and then maybe another place, I don't know, Wyoming, somewhere cool. It's kind of the three places. But if you want to do it outside of America, I think Tom Brady's got, Tom Brady, for example, I think he used to for the longest time. He had a place in like Big Sky, Montana or something. That's cool up there. Everybody likes kind of the country thing. I think the view on that is if, let's say things get real crazy or whatever, it could be a place that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. For safety, the thing too, you look at Mark Zuckerberg, was he have like some bunker, all these billionaires are building their bunkers and all that. I mean, there's always going to be those doomsdayers and all that. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about that. There's always going to be risk. I think the odds of you getting into a car accident or something like that are probably higher than having to worry about a situation like that. But we'll see. Hope things stay good. But yeah, so there's that aspect, and then I think, and then he's got a place in Costa Rica, and then he had a place in Boston. Maybe he sold it. Now he's got a place in Florida because I don't know what he does now, but it's just kind of the example there. Costa Rica's another cool one. Mel Gibson's got a place in Costa Rica, and I mean, you don't need to be a multi-millionaire to do this. I mean, generally, it depends on net worth. I mean, you could, obviously, if you have, if you could get loans too if you're buying foreign properties, and I mean, they're probably usually not the best investment. I mean, real estate, you got to really research it. I know there's people that own, real estate and vacation homes here in Playa del Carmen, and theoretically they can make money Airbnb-ing them when they're not here or whatever. You could look into that if that's your passion, if that's your interest in that. You could look into things like that, and then, maybe you could pay a management company, probably a lot cheaper to pay a management company here than it would be, in the US if you're trying to break into that, So yeah, there's that. You really got to look into these things. But I mean, if you're just somebody who makes 50, 100 grand a year, let's just say you're at that level, you could work remotely, can do it remotely, the first thing you probably want to do is just explore a bit, see the places, really research it. I mean, this is a lot, there's a reason. Andrew Henderson, Nomad, this whole thing is devoted to the tax advantages and all that, and where to go and what to buy, and it's a lot. He's got a whole thing devoted to all that. It's a lot to learn. it's a lot to learn. So there's a lot to learn in the world. One of my goals is try to just learn as much as I can. And there's a lot. It's not really possible. I remember, oh man, I don't know why this comes to mind. I remember I had this religion teacher in high school who was pretty passionate about it. And he said, he was telling us, like, so can a person learn all these things? I don't know, it was all this history, and then, or why can't they? And the kids would have an answer. And then one it was just funny because I was loved. Like, the kids basically had the answer, right? They all could raise their own kids, like, oh yeah, the human mind can't answer. No. I forget what I don't know. I forget what the actual answer was, but I think essentially the answer was that the kid had the right answer. I think it was the human mind cannot. There's only so much you could freaking learn. Usually, there's only so much information. So that's why kind of focus. It's why kind of people like Alex Hormozi say just focus on one thing. But maybe I think you can focus on kind of something, a career, a business that brings you in, a good salary. And then this, if that's what you're interested in. That's what I will say. But that's, kind of the thing. If you just want to do it with one place, just find, you could start, I don't know, let's say an example of a country. Maybe you like Argentina, which Buenos Aires I thought was pretty good. Getting a little bit more expensive because they're bringing the inflation down, which is interesting, but still pretty cheap, at least compared to U.S. prices. And maybe you live there, buy a place there or something. You can get loans for a lot of these places as a foreigner. They're not as much as a U.S. In the United States, where it's kind of everything's still not as much as it was pre-08, but still kind of geared towards letting U.S. citizens, letting Americans buy properties, kind of that American dream, if you will. And there's that. So you could look at it like that, and then when you get into kind of, there's a lot of these places, if you're in somewhere like Playa del Carmen, obviously a ton of Americans, ton of expats. I mean, it doesn't even feel like, everybody's, even a lot of the Mexicans here, they're not even from Playa del Carmen. They're from a different part of Mexico. You know what I mean? Like everybody's from somewhere else. So it's a lot of friendly people. It's usually pretty easy to get in with the right people. There's good in what I've learned in life. There's good and bad people of every place, every demographic. There's good and bad people. There's bad people that are poor. There's good people that are poor. There's terrible people that are middle class. There's really good people that are middle class. There's terrible people that are rich. There's really good people that are rich. You know what I mean? That goes for pretty much every country, every place. You're going to run into bad people and good people almost everywhere you go. A lot of these places that I've been to, especially ones with a good expat population, it's similar to living in like a Miami. I would say too, like Miami in terms of, if you can afford it, I mean, it ain't a cheap place, but Miami, a lot of good connections, a lot of really, really cool people there. You need the money though. That's the thing. You need, I don't know an exact, people will probably tell you need $500,000 a year to live in Brickell or whatever. That's not the case. You'd probably be fine, 150, 200 grand. But the problem is everybody's trying to, it's such a scam city too, because I don't know if you guys knew this, but like pretty much everywhere in Miami, they automatically, and I don't know if I necessarily disagree with it, I just find it funny, they automatically include like 20% gratuity at every place. Everything is just so, a small ice cream costs at least like $8 to $12 there. Like it's just, it's just it's kind of laughably expensive, which, okay, yes, I can afford it, but I just feel like it's not, like sometimes you just feel like, oh man, there's just so much better things to do, with this amount of money. Sometimes in Miami, it just feels like everybody's kind of trying to one-up each other in a certain way. But not as much. There's a lot of down-to-earth people that I've met. There is a lot of fake money too in Miami. That could probably be, it is newer wealth. Probably that would be said. LA would have some of that too, but probably less. Like it is a scam city. You run into a lot of, you see how things kind of work. All those. I remember. I don't know if it's still the case, but all those like restaurants that kind of the tourists go to in like South Beach, they would like give you a higher bill than the price kind of on the menu. They would like change it around or whatever, and then they wouldn't tell you gratuities and like, just stupid. Really, that's the thing too. Like the people doing that, like those people ain't gonna get rich. It's just, I find it so funny too. Like when people try to, and it's kind of pretty common. Like people will try to, not as in Asia more, but like I've seen it, they're trying to scam you on like, they try to give back the change a little less, and they're trying to scam you on like $1 or $2. And I'm just thinking like, dude, you think you're going to get rich scamming people off $1 or $2? This is like these people who think you're going to get rich not buying coffee. Like that's not going to make you rich. I mean, maybe when you're really old, I mean, maybe it could add up. Sure, there's compound interest, everything, but that's not really a significant, like you're better off to use that time and effort to make an extra few dollars scamming people on something more like, I mean, in the US too, it's getting more, it's like donation based too, because when you look at like those options to tip waged workers, people who are making minimum wage, like obviously it's in the American culture where they don't pay the businesses, it kind of just helps the businesses generally. I mean, where they don't pay the workers, minimum wage, they don't have to pay minimum wage because they get the tip, and that makes sense obviously. But like the culture of like Starbucks and all that, where it's a minute, you're already getting paid minimum wage, and you expect, it's like a donation. It's not even a tip at that point. It's like donation, and it's kind of getting to that point too. Everybody in the social media craze kind of talks about personal brand, and that's, if you have a personal brand, like you make TikToks or whatever, there's TikTok shop, and you find the item that's cool, and then people buy it, they use your link or whatever. And I mean, it's affiliate marketing, and I do it too. I'm not going to lie to you, but I mean, it's more like if you like the donation type of thing, if you like the person, use the product, kind of that donation thing. But it's like, oh man, like I don't know, like. It's just gotten, especially in the U.S., it's just gotten so like wild with that. Like everybody, it's just that weird kind of culture. And I mean, the United States, like I like the United States. There's a lot of, I mean, it's not that black and white. Like let's be real. It's still the world power. It's definitely not, objectively, I think, less opportunity than there was 20 years ago. You could say that probably about a lot of other countries too. More security risks in the big cities than there used to be. Life expectancy very low for a country of its wealth, very extremely low. Being healthy, it's not the place, I'll tell you that. I mean, there's certain pockets there that, yes, you can have a good, better lifestyle if you have the money too. I mean, but the United States is not not the best thing up there with that. Culturally, more like, I heard that some people in Europe or Scandinavia, I don't know if this is completely true, but they kind of view American lifestyle more like kind of how the Kardashians are. They think it's kind of all drama. And I mean, I think that is true to a certain extent. It's like it's too much drama. Relationships are too wild. Divorce rate is very high. That's another thing too. If you're thinking about, getting married, your odds of getting divorced in America are probably 50-50, I think. I don't know how it is for every country, but I know there's a lot of countries where it's much, much lower. Like Vietnam, I think it's like 8%, I read. I'm not saying that you should necessarily, go to Vietnam to find a relationship. No, I don't think that's, it's more about what do you want to do? That's a big question, all these life decisions. Where you live, should you go to college? What should you work on? What job should you have? I think that the basic thing I could tell you is make it a little bit more simpler than you think it has to be. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What job do you want to go? Like, should you go to college? Or like, do you want to get, somebody was asking me if they should go back to law school or do their MBA a few weeks ago. And what I said to them, and I think this was good advice that I gave them, is like, do you really want to do that? Is that something that you really, really want to do? Is that something that you think about all the time? If that's something that you really, really want to do, I think you probably should do it, and I think you'll probably get something out of it, even if you have to go into debt for it. You'll probably get something out of it. But the thing is, too, if you don't like it, if you get there, you probably shouldn't be afraid to drop out. I mean, look at all the big people. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they all dropped out after a semester, but it still was impressive. It was hard to get into those colleges that they went to. It was the hardest colleges to get into, so they obviously had a high IQ level. At least they all, they had some talent. But the other thing too with IQ levels, I think, a lot of people like Jordan Peterson will say you can't really improve it. I think that's kind of BS. I think you can improve it. I really think you can. If you really work on anything, I think you can make improvements. Now, are you going to go from, a 90 IQ to 140? I don't think so. But, can you bring it up 10 or 20 points? I think that's possible. I think somebody with an average IQ level probably could go to 120. Now, I don't know if you're 80 years old, I don't know, but I mean, I think you can improve upon that. And maybe the negative part of that is I think it also could go down. I've seen we've all seen people that were exceptionally bright when they were like in high school, college, and then they went down a dark and they made the wrong decisions, for whatever it may have been. Maybe they got into drugs or whatever, they don't seem as smart as they used to be. It could go both ways. It could definitely go both ways. So that's the big thing too. But I would recommend, if you're able to, if you're really able to, and you really have, it's like anything else, being a digital nomad. If that's something you really think about, something that you really want to do, you really have an interest in, you probably should do it. If you're happy where you are, if you really enjoy where you are, if you just want to live in one spot or just stay, in the place you grew up in, you probably should do that too. There's that, was a Taoist principle, Wu Wei, effortless action, which is kind of, something we kind of make things a little bit harder than they have to be. Kind of go with the flow. Where is the universe taking you? And don't be afraid, to reinvent yourself and, take different paths. You may have to make changes, but, ultimately the thing I'll leave you with here is like, it doesn't have to be, life doesn't have to be a complete nightmare. It doesn't have, you have to be consistent, obviously, like I always talk about, but it really, like if you're really doing something and you outright hate it and you know what I mean, you're probably not on the best, the best trajectory. Kind of don't take things too seriously. Like kind of have fun. You always see these people, not all of them, but like people in, very well-respected professions like doctors, lawyers, a lot of them seem pretty miserable. And now you got AI that's about to kind of take away a lot of that. So, the view with AI is that I just think, I don't want to really, I'm very capitalistic. Like, I don't want there to be, a society where it's kind of just all universal basic income. I definitely wouldn't be against it if you just taxed robots or just taxed the money that robots took away from, the taxes that humans would have made if you could do it like that. But I really hope we don't end up in a society that's, full out like universal basic income. Like, I'd rather kind of have it be where, like Naval Ravikant said 6 or 7 years ago on Joe Rogan's podcast, where who would have thought people would be making money playing video games, 30, 40 years ago, or these type of things. So more content create, I feel like it'll just be like, because you look at what I do, it's trading that's been around for a long time, crypto hasn't, but obviously stock market and equities and all that has been around for gold and all that's been around for a long time. But I guess the video making stuff like this is kind of, kind of new. Who would have thought, you could make, do well. Like, it's a variation of what's been around, but hopefully things just get more, it's something I think about too, and it is a little scary. Hopefully things just get more advanced in the way that, maybe it'll be easier. You could even argue. I was listening to the same Naval Ravikant on Chris Williams' podcast. He was on there recently. And, he still said it's still like the easiest time to make money. Okay, yes, you have to be consistent. You have to figure out, where you're kind of going to a certain extent, be focused. But, it's not, if you think it's going to be really hard, it's usually, that's the thing too, like law of attraction. If you think it's going to be, if you assume you're not going to get it, if you assume it's going to be very hard, then it likely will be. You kind of create your reality, your own destiny, your own mindset. And I think, I did a video pretty recently, or yesterday I uploaded it. It was kind of how a plan to potentially turn 15K into 1 million in the next 5 years. So I think you guys may like that, especially for kind of crypto investing. I don't know if it's ETH, Bitcoin. It's a rotation of ETH into S&P 500 to Bitcoin back into ETH in the next 5 years based on history. But I don't know. Maybe it will work. I think it will based on history, but we'll see. There could be some things like that. If you can wait, that's the big technique for like something simple, like Crypto Face said a few times, you take a swing, you save up a little bit, you take a swing, 15, 20 grand potentially into 1 million over 5 years. Now 5 years, that's the difference here. A lot of people don't have the patience to wait that 5 years, but maybe, you have other accounts and other things. Maybe just try this one thing. Now, it's not financial advice. For all I know, you could lose all the money. I have no idea. But Bitcoin, ETH, S&P 500, they'll probably still be relevant in 5 years, I would think, to a certain extent. You probably won't lose too much, but anything can happen, obviously. Who knows? Maybe if ETH becomes a relic, then the strategy is completely nullified. You're screwed. But, well, I don't know. But Yeah, I mean, if ETH goes to zero, yeah, there's a problem there. I don't think that'll happen. But anyway, now I'm kind of rambling, you know, from the main subject of this. But yeah, I mean, to summarize, guys, digital nomad, a lot of fun. I don't think I would do this, definitely wouldn't do this forever, but to explore some places while still, you know, being able to make money, great idea. You know, do it if you really want to, do it if you can. So yeah, I'll see you guys. Have a good one. Goodbye. Smash the like button.